States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll open it up to public comments. Anything that's not on the agenda and nothing that has a public hearing attached to it. Yeah, come on up, Bill.
Yeah, I'm here for two things. Since I couldn't do it the first time,
Yes, yeah, and you didn't want to stay around until 11:30 that night?
for some reason I didn't. I do think it's important though to publicly thank you guys and Ken Lewis for moving forward. And I mean, it was 3 weeks only, 3 weeks from when I came in and spoke, that the signs were up on the island in all different places that say very clearly, you know, give cyclists 3 feet, it's the law. And I think in addition to the fact that there'll be safety improvements at the margin, you have also done something to make sure this law is known that you're at the vanguard of. As far as I know, and I have pretty good sources on this, we are the first of the towns in Suffolk County to have posted something like this. And hopefully there will be other towns that will do this and will follow suit in places that are kind of hot spots and would be good for the same thing. So give yourselves a kudos. It's not much. I mean, there's always, everybody's always at different things, but this was something that you did quickly and efficiently, and I think there will be, again, at the margins, improvements in safety. So thank you, guys.
I wish we could take credit, but it was actually the highway superintendent.
It was all
If you guys if you didn't say yes, if you had resistance or reluctance, it wouldn't have happened 3 weeks, you know? And I guess Jim Reed looked at the citation I sent over and no problem, and went forward. So thanks. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. Our next agenda item is the pro-housing resolution. So our task was to go through the companion statement, make any edits, and then talk about whether or not we want to proceed with passing this resolution. Amber Wilson is not here. She is out, unfortunately, medical for family member. So I have there was a correspondence from Karen Care, and she wished that it get read into the record. She wanted it read into the minutes, so we'll have to reread it again as correspondence at the next town board meeting to actually make it into minutes, since we don't have minutes for work sessions. But anyways, good morning, town board members. Below is a letter I'm preparing for the reporter about my concern regarding the resolution Liz Hamley is proposing. As I see her on the calendar for tomorrow, I'd like to share my concerns ahead of the work session. Thank you for your attention to this matter. A longtime resident of Shelter Island, I'm deeply concerned by the prospect of our town adopting the New York State Pro-Housing Communities Pledge. While addressing the statewide housing crisis is understandable, this initiative, if passed, would irreversibly alter our beloved community while aimed at addressing housing needs. This resolution encourages density through multifamily housing and expanded development. Our peaceful, low-density environment, which defines Shelter Island charm, would be irrevocably transformed. It poses a direct threat to the character and precious resources of our island, critically our limited potable water table and aquifer. It would raise taxes and attract individuals primarily seeking cheap living, not those deeply invested in the community's values. Housing could also be available for those who may not even work on Shelter Island. Crucially, approving this resolution means ceding control over our local zoning and housing development to the state government. The pledge effectively transfers decision-making power over zoning and housing to the state, which may not understand Shelter Island's specific needs. The resolution refutes the idea that new housing would exclusively serve essential workers, highlighting the pledge's broad scope for fair housing, including supportive and accessible housing, allowing non-local workers to occupy it. Nowhere in this resolution advocating for our rural environment and small community of 3,000 people. I urge our local officials to vote no. Let us preserve the peaceful, unique world that is Shelter Island rather than sacrificing a one-size-fits-all New York State solution that is ill-suited for our beloved island. So that was, just want to see if Benjamin made it on yet. This was something that I think he wanted to participate in, but we can circle back if he's able to join us. Meg, I know you had some comments, but I wasn't, when I went to print it, I wasn't able to print the comments. So you had some things, so I thought I'd have you start.
Some of them were just comments on why I made some of the edits in the first place. Like one of them was, there was a redundancy that I had eliminated, things like that.
Mhm.
And then Ben, in his latest version, had some additional edits that just sort of broaden the language a little bit in the companion document. If you download it, it usually shows all the comments and edits, but sometimes it's a little funny.
Yeah, it wasn't working for me on the first.
Yeah.
And the phone started ringing.
None of the edits to this companion document are really, extremely substantial. One of them, is instead of the word provide, they say suggest. So pro-housing designation would provide the necessary framework is what it read, and now it says a pro-housing designation would suggest the necessary framework. And then another is underneath the title, enacting a pro-housing designation, key strategies and implementation. Once again, it added the word suggested, so, and these are Ben's edits. In the second line where it says,
Where suggested in that section?
oh, it's not on your version. After where it says focusing on,
Mhm.
it says suggested policy changes. So is it
Okay.
Ben's latest?
That's more on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so suggested was added.
Okay.
The next changes that were added were under zoning review. If you go down to the bullet. It originally read, with an eye on controlling density, and then you added, and respecting our community character. It's added in right after density. And then where it says a wider range of housing types in appropriate areas, you gave an example, not near shore overlay districts. The next one was the bullet where it says incentives for affordable housing. And instead of implement, he wrote investigate incentives for local homeowners instead of implement incentives. And then in number 2, grant programs for infrastructure improvements, supporting affordable developments, he said i.e. property-specific IA septic before adopting policies. And then the only other one was under 5, enacting policies. The first bullet changed, he added a sentence sort of in the beginning where it says, with an eye on controlling density and respecting our community character, our focus will be on affordable community housing for our local workforce and supportive and accessible housing for our seniors. So those are the changes.
Christina, I'm going to forward this to you because you weren't included, so you can put it up on the website and replace the one that's there.
And the comments I had, which is why things got deleted in the last round.
Mhm.
Okay, sounds great, thank you.
Hi, Steve, I see you've lit up.
Yes, I do have a suggestion, at least something to perhaps think about. I've always regarded land use regulation, which is a core function of local government, to involve a balancing between competing interests, both of which are right. The developer who says, this is a free country, I'm entitled to use my property in the way that I see fit, is right. The preservationist who says, I live in this community because of its character, I'm entitled to enact zoning regulations that preserve the character of the community. This is why we love this place. They're right. So if in the accompanying statement, some reference is made to balancing of interests, there certainly is a value to promoting affordable housing and all the related benefits of affordable housing. At the same time, the town board should and must and wishes to balance that with legitimate concerns about the character of the community. But try to avoid any code words that sound as if they're, code words for discrimination and bias. But I think those are legitimate interests on both sides. That is my sermon for the day.
Thank you. I did have a question. The resolution, because the state, and this is for you, Steve, is, it has to be done in the model that the governor wants. But then this companion statement, would this be like we would make it a policy that we're setting and then adopting via resolution? Like what would be the mechanism for doing this?
Well, it's a resolution expressing the sense of the town board. It can be in the form of a resolution. It can recite the fact that the town board is adopting the policy, and the board wishes to elaborate and expand upon its reasons for doing so and related and related issues and concerns and goals and related goals for the village, for the town. Have I sliced the bologna thin enough?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did anyone else have any comments or questions at the board level? If that is a no.
Yeah, I mean, I worked on this with company, so I don't have any.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you've
I don't
been-
know if Albert and Gordon do.
Did you distribute that, your changes or?
Benjamin did,
on
he
Friday.
emailed them
email?
on Friday.
I just was having trouble printing the comments.
There weren't a ton of changes, it's pretty close to the original document that we gave you.
I'm fine with the edits that you presented. One of the notes that I had from last week's discussion is that the resolution in the resolve section will have us endeavor to take the following steps. And Steve, you had pointed out endeavor as opposed to required or mandatory.
Right. It's less of a mandate.
Correct.
You can even say reasonably take make reasonable efforts, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think that we can change the prescribed. Hampton is working on that. They've got more lawyer power than we have.
Right.
So
But it's
kind of letting them
it.
take the lead on this,
Right.
but we are getting to a point where we need to have this in place if we want to move forward with our housing initiative.
But I guess the idea is that it's not a mandate or, forcing us to take any
Mhm.
one particular direction. But we should strive to follow the correct direction for the town, is what I'm reading out of this.
Actually, when I mentioned reasonable steps, I was thinking of the companion statement, not the resolution itself.
The only thing that I kind of wanted, and I didn't come up with language yet, was
Mhm.
just to incorporate, like reiterating that we must, well, I guess there is Suffolk County Health Department regulations.
Yeah, no matter what, you can't
Yeah.
not follow
I just
that. And I thought I
maybe-
put it in there pretty,
Yeah, implement plans that meet all applicable regulatory standards. I don't know, maybe just something to keep that section up a little bit.
in where,
In enacting pro-housing designation number 2, or no, number 1,
because it was reiterated in 5 too.
number 1, third.
So, 1, 3. Right. Suffolk County Health Department regulations work in conjunction with the town and Suffolk County Department of Health to design and implement plans that meet all applicable regulatory standards. That would be for water and wastewater. We can list that if it helps. And then it's brought up again in number 5,
Mhm.
where it's talking about,
Building code and density determined by
right,
Suffolk
it'll all be
County.
determined by Suffolk County Department of Health, and thus housing policies will look different in our community as opposed to other.
Yeah. Mhm.
Expand that to specifically list water and wastewater. No matter what, we have to follow, the Department of Health's regulations. We have no choice there.
Mhm. Yeah. I think the thing that, most concerning is if we accept any grant money through the pro-housing, we just look very carefully at what restrictions and contingencies and,
Conditions come with it.
conditions are put on that money before we accept it. Yeah, you look like you're going to say
You have
something.
something? What you got, Gordon? What you got?
I guess I'm going back to last week's meeting that we had discussed, okay, some financial models, okay? I know you're into this resolution, but shouldn't we pick up from where we were last meeting? In terms of, I think there was a request for financial models. Is that something that is not to be discussed?
Liz is here, we can bring her in to see where she stands on that request.
I know you had, so I'm assuming you were asking when you said about the financial models, do you mean are you talking about the model for the project, or do you mean the potential other funding models if the board was unwilling to do this? Just which one, I'm happy to address either, but which one would you like to see?
Well, I
Or
think-
which one do you want to talk about?
Well, I still don't have, I don't have a piece of paper. Okay, that's really where I'm dealing with right now, meaning I don't have, I really have never met with CDILI. I assume you've met with them. Okay, so I'm really somewhat in the dark, okay? So maybe I need to know, I've never gone into something not having met the vendor or since this is a 49-year agreement, okay? Well, this is I'm confusing the memo. I'm a little confused of where the memo comes
Yeah,
in
so-
and
so-
where this comes
Yeah, so
in.
let's talk about it. So there is the thing that we are speaking about today is the pro-housing designation,
Mhm.
right? So that is separate from the MOU, right? So what we are talking about today is asking the board to pass the pro-housing designation. Now, this will unlock funding for this specific program that we do have on the horizon, which is why it is very timely. However, it is also going to be useful for any future housing initiatives that we may take up with CDLI or on our own or with a different partner. So I just want to make very clear that it's separate, right? A totally different thing. It just unlocks funding sources that, like I said, we could use for this project or other things. So there's that. Do you want to talk about that part or the MOU? I'm also happy to discuss that as well. But I just want to make sure that because we do have so many things going on, I don't want to get them conflated. So right now what we're talking about is the pro-housing designation, which would, like I said, unlock the funding for this particular program, but is not necessarily tied to this program.
Yes, what I'm saying, Liz, is that I've had no dealing with, I'm in the dark, meaning I don't know, I've never met CD. We're talking about entering in, this is a pro-housing. So you're saying this pro-housing is different than the letter, the memo of, not the memo of intent, but the. Understand.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, so this is to unlock, like I said, funding for, specifically, we do need it for this project, and happy to talk about the MOU and our relationship with CDLI and all those things, but just like that is separate. But this is about unlocking funding from the state for this and other projects, right? So they're not together. If the town board was to pass this resolution, it doesn't mean that we're specifically going to do this funding. It doesn't mean that we have to give, you know what I mean? It just means that now we have options that we did not have before this. So they are completely separate.
Just to speak about the CDLI and the, so we do have a proposal and we have a binder. I actually got one of the committee people's binders on Friday for the first time because they went out to the community housing board to take a look at. The two liaisons got copies. I understand that maybe one of the two of you got a copy of one of the binders? Okay, do you have a binder? Okay, I didn't have.
I can ask one of the community housing board members to bring it
I
in.
can give you my binder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, the committee clerk is out on bereavement, and so I had asked her to make a photocopy and to find out
It is
who
like,
indeed
it is a
had.
pretty,
Yeah, it's big,
it's
so,
big. And so that's,
but let me just
Oh,
back up,
sorry,
yeah, let me
sorry.
just back up for a second. So I had not had an opportunity because all the binders went out to the people who were supposed to see them first. We are going to be taking a look at this memorandum of understanding, which is how we will accept this proposal that we've received. And so I wanted to have those binders copied so that the board it would be distributed to the board. And then when the community housing board was ready to, release the latest draft of the MOU, we would have that binder so we could see all of the information in it, as well as the MOU. And then that's when the town board. So it's been at the community housing board level. It's on its way to us very soon. It just hasn't gotten there yet. So
We did have extensive conversation over the financial model. So when we talk about the financial model, last week, okay, there was an A, there was a B, and there was a C. And that's when we got into the discussion that the other ones weren't viable, okay? And that there was some document that was available, but I've not seen that yet, okay? And
what document are you referring to?
you referred to a document, you have the models, okay?
So let's back up. So what you were asking is how we determined what the delta would be? Is that the Excel document that David and I, so I will just tell you that is now a year out of date. And I guess I'm happy to share it with you. I don't have the bandwidth to update it. I know CDLI has updated it, but I guess I would just step back and just be like, hey, where are we going with this, right? So I want to just kind of step back and talk about where we are with the rent, like with our project. And just like I said, let's take a step back and like talk about what the process are, because I think we might be a little bit lost in the weeds. So we put out a request for qualifications, not a proposal. We didn't accept the bid. We asked folks for their qualifications to kind of start on a process with them to move forward. Not a request for proposal, qualifications, right? So we accepted their qualifications. So now is the time where we start working out the contracts, right? The actual agreements that the town is going to be involved in, the land lease, the construction agreements, like all those things. I think there's like 5 or something that are outlined in the moment. So those will be the things that I would assume, and this is how we talked about, that this board and the community housing board, plus all the lawyers, will be working with these folks, right? With CBLI and their building partners to come up with agreements. So I think that the very thing that you're asking for is built into the process that we are about to start. So we kind of have to just get to that starting place, because the community housing board is unable to enter into a land lease, building contract, or any of those things. Those would be undertaken by the town board, you guys, right? Obviously, the community housing board, we're here to help because we have, we've been working on this for a couple of years, so we do have a lot of context. But those very items, the financial model that you, I'm sure, would be very interested in seeing, would probably be the most updated one, which would be, I would assume, at least if it was me, I would want to see the most updated model, which is what they've already prepared most recently, as opposed to David and mine, which is out of date. And if we want to take that apart and do our own math about it, absolutely, let's do it. But I guess I'm just saying, like, I think that the things that you're talking about are important, and that's why I would like to get to the next step so that we can really start discussing them, right? Because if we're going to do a deal with somebody, I think that, at least for me in my professional life, you kind of need the other party to be there, right? So we're kind of having this discussion with ourselves, but I think how I see it is I would like to move forward with a memorandum of understanding so that we can start having these discussions with the folks that we will actually be partnering with, right?
Remember, you've been into these discussions with the CDI of LI. Have you gotten into the financial models?
No, I've been involved in discussions with them with the pre-conferencing when they first came in and wanted to ask all the questions they needed to ask in order to respond to our RFQ. So the 2 town board liaisons have, or I guess maybe Benjamin wasn't there, but you sat in on the conference meeting that was held in executive session.
There wasn't, so just to be, I just want to be clear because there was some confusion on it.
Okay.
The only executive session that the Community Housing Board has ever done was actually when we were considering their proposal.
Oh, so they weren't present.
So they were not present.
Okay.
It was the Community Housing Board discussing the presentation and being like, should we move forward? We had to do a rating scale. And so we didn't do that in open session because it's big rough money. But that's the only executive session that
I
Community Housing
misunderstood.
Board has ever done since I've been on.
Then I must have been in that executive session.
Me. So go ahead, Gordon.
No, I must have been in that executive session because I remember the bidder you had, you put him through the questionnaire and the committee voted to make sure that he was qualified with X number of points, correct?
Yep, that was, we went through points, and one person went this way and the other, that was the executive session, so I believe you were.
Okay, no,
present.
I was there for that as well.
Okay,
I was
yeah,
thinking
I
it
was-
was more in depth than just that's
There
all.
should have only been 2 of you there,
Well,
because that's why I didn't
Mel didn't
come.
participate, he sat in the back.
Okay, I'm just putting that, I didn't come because I didn't want to create quorum, so.
Albert, to your point, we had been reviewing those binders and had gone to a pre-conference, a conference, had 3 rounds of questions answered to them by the time we got there. So, if it took an hour, that's because we had done a month and a half of work before we reached that point.
To clarify too, the memorandum of understanding, when we put out an RFQ, we asked for professionals who knew what they were doing to partner with us to help us figure out how to do this whole housing process, right? So the MOU is really entering into a partnership with CDCLI and their contractors and everybody else to help us develop the housing plan, develop the budget, and that's all in here. So if you look at it, number one, develop the project. The first item under there is prepare detailed budget of the project. So it's really partnering with a professional to help us do the whole process because we don't have that skill set. So, and just, this is separate from the resolution from the state. We could do the resolution from the state and never have a housing project in the works.
Yeah.
They're just very separate things. And the housing resolution also opens up money for, other types of projects, like downtown revitalization projects, like figuring out ways to use abandoned buildings and things like that. So they're just separate entities.
Well, quick question. Liz, you just mentioned that CDCLI has updated whatever spreadsheet that they have.
Well, okay, so hold on. I'm assuming because when I asked them what the delta was between what funding was needed, that it was clear that their builder had done math at the conference. Now, they haven't shared with us, nor are they required to, theirs, but it was in the same ballpark. And as we embark on creating the budget with them, I thought that would be, that would be the budget, we would be looking for. But high level, we came up with the same numbers, so it tells me that our base models were similar, so.
This is the budget of the $2 million that you're short?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
and that's, again, just to, that 2 million was funding that was originally, just so we're clear, that was money that was available, okay, that is no longer available. Is
yeah,
that correct with that?
so just to back up, when we did the model, we figured out, basically, would the rents that because we wanted to keep it affordable, would they be able to service the debts with the insurance, with the interest rates being what they are and construction price, obviously you're just taking a snapshot in time of any of these things. They're all wildly variable. And so the math that we had done showed that there was a $2 million shortfall. Initially, we thought we had that filled from the county. That funding is no longer available at that level. There will be some, which is why we find it necessary to also pursue other avenues.
Wasn't one of the other model items, okay, that since you have this, even though it's not used, but just so that the board has a look at alternative ways of handling the funding basis, to take a look at the 1.1 million you have and to see how, and again, that was it was an alternative in terms of how that could be used to fund, because really what, the resolution is basically looking for more funding. I understand that, okay? But in terms of the modeling, okay, we have 1.1 million, and I thought the idea was to do a model using that money either for as collateral for bonding or something else.
We had never undertaken, we had never thought that we would use the community housing fund for this project. Because there was so much money available from the county and the state, we thought it was, just to be frank, like kind of irresponsible to use it, to turn away other funding. But that's just our point of view.
Okay.
We had always planned that would be available for whatever initiatives came out of the second community housing plan, which we'll be looking at like a year and a half. Because.
And what would you do with the money that was there, that 1.1?
So like I said.
If you didn't use it for this, and I guess the bottom line was that I thought the idea was to really look at all of the variables, okay? And then
I would look to
the board
respond to
looks at them. So I know you haven't done them, but I thought.
I have done them, and so I would like to respond to that.
Okay.
So what I said is we had always thought, I don't know if you've tried to build something recently, but $1.1 million will not get you very far. So what we had thought is we would take that first 5 years or 4 years or whatever to let the funds build so that we could do something impactful. How our board had always looked at it is that that money would be available for the second part, so we have to redo the community housing plan every 5 years. So we had always thought we will be able to acquire enough money in that fund to be able to use it towards whatever the directives were from the community on that second plan. So it wasn't that we didn't consider it or we didn't have a plan, we absolutely had a plan. Our plan was always that for this first one, we were gonna have to go for outside funding.
In my mind, I've sort of viewed it, it's a fallback. Like we apply for funding, you're never guaranteed getting it. We may not want to accept some of it because of the strings attached. So it is a fallback.
But it's like absolute last resort. If we had shovels in the ground and something crazy came through. But what that would mean, so that we're really clear, is that we would then not be able to do something probably for the next 5 years. So that would be now all that we could do for 10 years. If we were, obviously if we were unwilling to move forward with this and we only wanted to use local taxpayer dollars to do this, so.
A portion of it, like if you get a matching grant, for example, some of them are 80-20, we have to put up
Exactly.
20%. We can use the housing fund money to cover that 20% if it's a matching grant. So depending on what the funding opportunities are, we may need to use some of that community housing fund money to actually get those grants. So, it's good to have some flexibility. I mean, it's like you never want to spend all your CPF money on one purchase. You want to spread it out over multiple purchases if you can. It's the same concept.
Isn't the concept that the community housing board is put forth as building the 10 units? Can we do it incrementally?
Not in this model, we'd
lose economies of scale.
we would lose this bid, or we would have to start from scratch. So we would lose any opportunity to have outside funding. So we'd need to start from zero. The 10 units is the
I don't
minimum,
understand. How would we lose outside funding?
because they will only look at it. The 10 is the minimum that we can look at for funding, is the smallest amount of
Is
units.
that, where is that?
The county,
in the-
It's from the county.
when we were talking to the county about that 2 million.
Right, I remember that, that's correct.
Yes.
The 2 million was based on 10 units, and that was the
Right.
conversation, because we talked about doing, rather than in construction, it's like, so anyhow, let me not ramble here, but the 10 units was based on the 2 million. But since we don't have the 2 million at this time, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, why can't we do it incrementally?
That's not what we put out for the request for proposal.
We would lose economies of scale.
We would lose all the
Our
economies of
building
scale.
costs would go up.
Yeah, so the economics don't make sense. We could, the reason we have not considered doing less than that is because it's exponentially more expensive per unit, the management fees, all those kinds of things. We couldn't make a way to make it economically be viable or responsible, so that's why we didn't pursue it.
Benjamin, I see you turned your camera off. Because you did publish where your location is, you should leave your camera on so that you're an active participant of this, just a procedural item.
I figured nobody wanted to see me in my dirty shirt.
Too bad.
Yeah, no, it was I would say that the economics at 10 units are extremely difficult. We were unable to make it work, so.
So, excuse me if this question has already been asked, but have we talked about CDCLI coming to talk to us, answer some questions next week, maybe?
So I also just kind of, great question. I think that the natural next part of this, how we had talked about this going, would be this board weighs in on the memorandum of understanding And then we could potentially do a joint meeting with them to finalize it, right? So we are gonna have a lot of natural meetings and overlap as we negotiate those contracts. And I think that that's kind of probably getting into like the real meat and the details, I think that we all wanna dig into.
Okay.
So,
And that is actually something that I do want to do before the town board adopts the MOU via resolution, is to have CDLI come in and
That-
do a small dog and pony show.
yeah, I mean, were you guys, I don't know, were you able to attend the conference? Like, you know, I mean, that was really like a lot of the conference, and the pre-conference was, I think, I know for the community housing board where we really got a lot of our questions, and, you know, those were all open to public.
Well, now the real question is, how do they see this funding that they want us to pass this resolution for? How do they see it specifically applying to this project? And that's all all I really want to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just, you know, I guess I don't know how to respond to that, other than, you know, I mean, that was a question that I asked them at our conference. We need $2 million, you know?
Yeah, but they must know now because they're a part of the bid. I mean, they must have looked at this. I'm sure their spreadsheets show it, and they figured this out already. So come in and tell us about it. That's all.
But
That
I mean, I
doesn't
guess, what
matter.
are you saying? Like, why do they need $2 million, or why
No,
does $2
no.
million? Like, I want to get to the heart of your question.
They want us to pass a resolution that will open up, quotes, funding for this project and others. And I don't really care about the other ones right now. I'm only concerned with this one, but it'll open up funding for this project. So
Mhm.
what is what funding and how? How do they see it working? I mean, they're like
Grant
9
money
or
would-
10
The grant money, I mean, here's the thing, is because of the specifics of what we have put forth as a town, of the kind of units that we want to do, the community that we want to serve, you know, between 80 and 120 AMI, this seemed the most appropriate funding source, which is why they've asked us to explore it.
But
Yeah,
to be
and
fair,
there
this
are
is
10
also
different
something.
grant programs inside that funding source.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
They should just come and talk to us about it. I mean,
Have
that's
you
a-
reached out to them?
well, that's what this process is about. As a board, they shouldn't be talking to me. They should be talking to the whole town board.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, to be fair, this is, the resolution is something that the Community Housing Board has been asking us to do for like the last year before the
Before
RFQ or the
Okay,
grant process or anything came out.
not fair. When they first asked us a year ago, they were talking about having the $2 million of grant funding. So it wasn't taken that seriously and it wasn't pushed that hard.
Well, I put it on the agenda every week. I don't know how much more seriously we can take it. You know, I mean,
Well, you put it
I-
on.
what
every
else?
week. Well, look,
I
let's
ask about it every week.
talk about getting it done now. Let's not talk about what happened a year ago. So,
Okay, well, you
because
want
I
just
want to
move
get
forward.
this done right now. I actually do.
Great, awesome. So let's make a plan to move this. If we could have the notes from the memorandum of understanding, then, you know, then we could have a meeting with CDLI and talk to them. I'm happy to set something up. I'm just trying to figure out
If that works for that's okay.
whatever you, at this point, whatever you guys need to move this forward, I'm happy to help.
And what I'd like to do, and that's why I was trying to get the copies of the binder for everybody to have, to start reading it.
Absolutely.
Because there is a lot of information in there, and I'm like only a fraction of the way through since I got it on Friday
Yeah.
afternoon. So that we all take a look at it. So before CDLI and whoever from the rest of the group comes in, we can have some very specific questions to, you know, just to vet them a little bit before we accept the MOU.
Right.
So that is another step that's going on alongside of what we're trying to do today, which was the pro-housing designation.
Yeah,
Amber,
so
do you
I
So
mean,
I had it
need my
tentatively
binder?
for, what?
you need my binder? I mean, my binder's sitting in my home office in Shelter Island. I can, Ella's home, I could get her to dig it out.
If you could send it on over to Gordon, because I did get one of the, I got brands.
Yeah, or I'm happy to like reach out to community housing board members to get it to you, whatever's needed.
Okay, I mean, I'm obviously not in Shelter Island right now, so if there's a local way to do this, that would be great. Otherwise, I can see if my daughters
Yeah.
are ready to find it.
I'm happy to reach out to community housing board member and get you a binder.
I can give them a
Great, thank you, Bill. So just to like step back, so we really have gotten, again, I just wanted to come back, the item that is on the agenda today is the pro-housing resolution. And so it seems like you guys have done a lot of work on the companion statement. I really appreciate that. And so I guess I would just like ask this board, like, what is the timetable here for understanding if this is something that you are willing to move forward with or not? So that we can understand what we're doing here.
I know, I might. Did Stephen take a look at it, Stephen Leventhal?
Which one? The
Pro-housing
The
resolution.
pro-housing, no, the
companion
pro-housing,
document?
well, mostly the pro-housing amendment, but also the companion document.
I did when it first came in. I haven't seen the revisions that are proposed to the
Okay.
companion statement.
Okay. Oh, no, I sent my comments only to the 4 other town board members. I'm sorry, I should have sent it to you too.
Yes, and to Christina too, just so she can post it on the town website for discussion document.
We can vote it.
Stephen,
I'll
what
forward it
would
right
you,
now.
oh, sorry. Could you go over your comments on the resolution itself, pro-housing resolution?
Right. As I said at a previous meeting, the resolution is mostly aspirational. It doesn't commit the town to any particular action. It provides that the town, to use a word that was used earlier today in this meeting, endeavor to do certain things, that it places a value on certain things, but it doesn't require that the town take any specific action.
But
And of course, when matters come up for consideration by the town board, this will have been a prior statement of board policy, and the board has an obligation not to be arbitrary and capricious in making its decisions. But as long as it's the board's future decisions are grounded in evidence that is adduced at a public hearing, for example, in a land use application, and supported by that evidence and reasonable, then presumably those decisions will be sustained if they're challenged. So that is kind of a roundabout way of saying that this, the bottom line is, as I've now said more than once, is that the resolution is aspirational.
Okay.
I think it's
Doesn't really put us in a position where we could be maybe pressured into making, let's say, a zoning change that we don't want to make because we passed this resolution.
Well,
What would the-
a zoning application will have to be taken on its merits. And well, as I said, this will be at that time a prior statement of board policy and should be taken into consideration in deciding future applications that bear upon the issues raised here. It's not the sole consideration for the whichever board the particular matter is before.
And the companion piece that we've been working on, I mean, we don't maybe have to discuss this right now, but what's the best way to incorporate that into this process? Obviously, we can't edit the resolution that the state has put out, but how do we effectively make it what we call it, a companion piece, something that is passed alongside? In the old world of contract law, we would call it a side letter. Yeah.
Well, ideally, what I would like to see is that one of the whereas clauses refer to the fact that there is a companion statement of even date. I don't know how much pressure you will get from the governor's office with respect to adding a whereas clause. But in the companion statement, you certainly will make clear that this companion statement is adopted and should be viewed together with the resolution as a statement of the intent of the board.
And Stephen, we can adopt the companion statement via resolution at the same time as we adopt the pro-housing designation resolution from the state, right? So they can be in the same meeting, back-to-back resolutions.
Same meeting, same minutes, same posting on the website, if you wish. Yes.
I mean, well, okay, as you all know, I mean, the whole companion statement idea was something I've always been supportive of. And it gets me to a comfortable place. So maybe the remaining question for me then is, do we want to take the step to add a whereas clause, knowing that whereas clauses are not legally part of the actual resolution that is passed?
Right. I'm sorry, I will add one more thing,
Mhm.
that legislative enactments
Mhm.
are often accompanied by documents which records and documents which taken together represent the legislative intent.
Mhm.
And when a court wants to interpret legislation, of course, the first consideration is the actual words used in the enactment. But to the extent there's a need to go beyond those words, the court will go to the legislative intent in interpreting what the enactment means.
Mhm.
So I would make that analogy here. The companion statement is a part of the legislative history of the adoption of this resolution and represents a statement of the legislative intent.
Well, in an effort to shorten this conversation, we should seriously consider adding whereas clause, passing this resolution, see what happens.
So if it gets rejected, then we'll revisit.
Then we'll come back and then we'll take out the whereas clause, we'll pass it again.
And just for future
I
consideration,
think
if you want to
that's fine.
shorten a
I really do. Sorry.
if you ever want to shorten a conversation, don't ask a lawyer to comment.
Tell me if I'm crazy.
Fine with me.
I've been in the sun for the last.
Stephen, after looking at the resolution, and then the companion statement is long, I almost feel it tends to be a little bit more specific than I would like, okay? I think that, and if the resolution has to be accepted by New York along with the other documents, is there any downside of just having the resolution as is, along with the documentation that they're requiring? I mean, if you didn't have a companion statement, what's the risk here? I don't see any.
Well, first of all, the question is whether you feel a need to clarify or to add whether you need to express something that is not contained in the resolution. I think that's the real point of the companion statement. So, without knowing for sure, I would presume that the companion statement is discretionary with the board, because the resolution is the enactment. A companion statement is exactly what it says it is. It's merely a companion statement.
Yeah. Should does it matter what we call it? Should we call it expression of legislative intent?
You could do that, sure.
I mean, that's fine too. But those two pieces together, especially if we add the whereas clause, seems like the way to do this. I don't know. Like I said, I've been out in the sun for a day and a half, so I could be a little crazy.
Gordon, you're suggesting not including a whereas and not doing the companion statement?
Well, the whereas is in the resolution. I'm just saying to you, after I read it, I wondered to myself whether by putting a companion statement to it, it becomes more, the resolution statement is coming from New York State. It's a form that they print out. Okay, I think what we're trying to do is interpret it and put certain language in there. I'm wondering whether we're opening up a can of worms by having a companion statement. That's what I'm wondering about.
The companion statement would stay locally. The resolution, the pro-housing community resolution gets sent up to the state along with some other information that we have to send on, numbers and house, where we are. But the companion piece is for us as a guiding document when we're looking at accepting money, when we're looking at any any zoning changes, things like that.
Right. I mean,
But we're not sending it to the state, so I don't think we're sending any red flags to them.
And just to, Gordon, to clarify, when I suggested adding a whereas clause, it was assuming that you're going to adopt the companion statement. It would just be a reference to it in the resolution, so that it's clear that they should be read together.
Yeah, it's just
Got
one
it.
sentence.
That I think would then send it up to the state if we add that whereas clause referencing a companion document. Then I think the state might come back and say, what's this? You're not abiding by the language,
see
and now we want to know what your companion is.
Stephen, the companion statement becomes what's the expression that you used? It becomes a,
Legislative intent.
I forgot the statement you used earlier, okay, it becomes an aspirational.
Yes, that is the word, right? Yes, Yeah.
Aspirational. So it's still, all of it is really aspirational.
yes. It's not an action document. It's an expression of the board's view on this subject and what it wishes to make a priority in the future.
And it can be used in the future to guide any legislative matters relative to zoning and so forth. It serves some purpose here. Rather than-
Yes.
And I feel, for me, part of it is that in 5 or 6 years, when people are like, why? What was the board thinking when they passed that resolution? It gives some clarity to what the board was thinking. Because there have been times where we're looking through code and we see a section of code and we're like, what were they thinking when they wrote this? And we end up trying to go back to the minutes to get clarity, and it's not always in the minutes, that kind of clarity that we need. So this kind of helps provide some clarity and some understanding of, where the town board was at the time that they considered passing this resolution. So that, public opinion may change in the next 6 years. And so they may look back on this document and go, oh, that was cute, but that's not what we believe anymore. Now we're thinking this. So it just kind of helps give some clarity and in that snapshot of time as to where we were and what we were thinking when we did it.
So a year and a half ago, or whatever the statement was, the resolution came about, it was looked for at that particular time, okay, and we didn't have an RFQ out or an accepted RFQ.
It originally came out in 2023 is when it was launched by the state. So since then.
And the granting that's there for extra outside funding, is that applied to through the town? This is why I think there are a lot of questions. Is that the town has to apply for this, or does it go through the developer?
So it would depend on the grant, but some of it's the developer with us as an interested party, because we would own the land and they'd be able to do the building.
understand
So it would be a partnership. So the grant application would be done in partnership, the town and the developer.
Okay.
That's typically, I think, how it
Private,
works. right? It's a-
private-public partnership.
And they have the expertise in terms of how to do and where to go for that.
So just to be clear, just so there's no misunderstanding, this is asking these questions has nothing to do with my goal, okay, that we get housing done. That's the B. Want to make sure this is really clear, because sometimes this gets misconstrued when you ask questions about anything. Sometimes it's like, well, we're looking for some way out. That's not the question here. This is an obligation, okay, that town board makes that will be for many years. So I think all I'm trying to do is due diligence, particularly when I look at the memo of the memo of understanding, and it's something that's out there for 49 years, okay? So we're making, we already know this, I'm just repeating what we all know, is that we're making a financial decision for the town, okay, for a 49-year project, okay? So due diligence is not a bad thing, okay? It's a good thing to make sure decisions we're making, because the last thing I think you want to do is, and I think the CDI, I think it would be, I tend to agree with Ben, it would be good to have them, see, you've had experience, you as the two liaisons, okay, you've been dealing with this all along. I don't know, all I'm looking at is a big contract, okay, I have no clue, I don't even know who these people are, I would know who they were if I bumped into them, okay, and I always look at it, if I'm buying something or doing something, I like to know what we're getting, and I think that's the only reason why I asked about the modeling, okay, is what are the alternatives, okay? And although it may not be the right alternative, I think there's nothing wrong with presenting all the alternative. Anybody here has ever sailed in their life, we're going to Block Island, but there's always 4 different alternatives of what you may do if a storm comes about. You may go into Montauk, you may go there, and that's really what I'm looking for.
So if the question in front of us is the housing amendment, how do we want to deal with this? Do we want to do the companion? Do we not want to do the companion?
I want to do,
Oh,
I'm sorry, Bill,
Did I go on that one?
yeah, you were waiting patiently.
I came up originally on that one, but I have 1 or 2 other little comments. One of the things, and Steve had referred to it earlier, why I think the companion piece helps as a contemporaneous statement of context and intent is that at some point there could be an Article 78. And one of the things that could be shown that you are not acting arbitrarily and capriciously is that this is how the town board viewed what was happening at the time that it was passing the overall housing, pro-housing resolution that the state had put out, which as I said last week on Zoom, I see as totally aspirational and not restrictive. And I do realize I come from a place of a little bias being on the housing board. But, in my prior life as an attorney, looking at those types of things, I would have said, there's no meat to bind me to this. You raised an important point, I think, Amber, earlier, which is at the time that these grants are sought, the grants themselves may have other restrictions. And if you, as the town board, could then make a decision, you don't want to do this, or the state may come back and say, no, that we want the housing resolution to meet X, Y, Z, you still have an option to say, okay, given that context, we're revoking our approval of the pro-housing resolution. But at this point in time, it seems like it is the best methodology to at least seek other funds. It doesn't mean that the process is over, and I know I've said this a million times, process matters. And even the process, I think, Gordon, this goes to what you're doing here, you're trying to follow a process that makes sure you've done all of your due diligence. One thing that hasn't happened yet is that you guys haven't really said, hey, we've looked at this, and not only us, but the town board from the RFQ perspective says these guys are qualified. They are able to do that. That's still something that you haven't acted upon. And now I think it'll happen contemporaneously with going through the MOU, but these are not individual paths. There are parallel paths that are happening out there. And those parallel paths can take place separately, but you won't be doing everything until you get to that final point. You can pass this pro-housing resolution, and maybe you never get to, please don't, but you don't get to the point of saying, hey, we want to go forward with the 10 units. There are, they can all happen in a different way. And I think, Meg, you said something important. Some grants require you to make some contribution. So the money that hopefully we will be able to keep for seniors and the next tranche of what we're going to do, great. But we may have to use some for other things. So I think it's important to keep the process flowing and the questions flowing and the due diligence. My sense has always been, you all want this. It's how do we get there? So go back to the Article 78, though, why I think companion statement is good.
So,
To answer your question, Benjamin, whether or not we want the companion statement, I am in favor of having the companion statement.
and so am I, by the way. So, I am as well. May I propose that we ask Stephen Leventhal to write an extra whereas clause for the resolution and then have a good look at the companion statement that we've put together the draft of and finish that up so we can get this all behind us?
I don't know that the additional whereas clause is necessary if it's gonna muddle things, but it depends on how everybody else feels. I don't know.
I'm going to make a call. I mean, let's see what you want to do. I'm also going to make a call to the contacts, the liaisons for the state, just to say, like, if we do this without us actually,
I mean, if it gives the town more protection, I'm in favor of it. That's all.
I'm just thinking in terms of
More controls.
if we send it up and they reject it, then we've got to come back. But if we also send it up and they reject it, then they may do more.
I think asking that question is a good idea, but of course, I suggest you make it clear in the question that you ask that the whereas clause would only refer to the fact that the town board is contemporaneously adopting a companion statement. That's all it would say.
Mhm.
And that I think that would be fairly innocuous and hopefully inoffensive to them.
I'm fine with that.
I just worry about
And
opening.
if that actually becomes a problem, I think you can dispense with the whereas clause and adopt the companion statement.
Yeah, I think we should get it if we can get it, the whereas
Mhm.
clause. If we can't get it, then we'll move on. We'll pass it anyway. But if we can get it, it only helps us. So let's try and get it.
I agree, but
Hmm.
I just asked one kind of point of order. So just as someone trying to move this process forward, so what does this mean in terms of timing? Like, would that mean, so it sounds like what I hear is that Amber, you would call the state.
Yes, but it sounds like everybody wants me. I mean, I'll talk to them to see whether or not, like, if out of hand, they're like absolutely positively not, and then we'll have this back on the agenda for next week's work session.
Okay, so,
If they say, because they're not the governor's office, they're just liaisons, within the state, and they say give it a try, then we can pass both pieces at the August 11th.
Yeah, that's not actually August 11th meeting.
Yeah.
okay. All right, awesome. So then it'll either be on the work session next week or on the 11th?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Just making sure I had that here. Thank you.
Yeah. And then
And you'll ask Stephen to have a look at the companion statement and clean it up.
I've already resent what you're, the one with your drafts, Benjamin.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then just to sort of get back to Bill Maestro's point about like parallel tracks of things, this project is like a fork where like pro housing is one tine on the fork, the MOU is another tine, other steps along the way or other tines. So we will try and pick up sometime this week to have a joint meeting with Community Housing Board and either this week or next week, early with Community Housing Board to work on the MOU. And Steve Leventhal, I will reach out to you for availability before I try scheduling all the other parties.
The RFQ, this is not holding up. Where is the RFQ at this particular time?
The RFQ has been-
Have we, as a board, I'm a little confused. Are we holding up anything? That's the question that Liz is really asking.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We are.
And what we're holding up is, because without this, the developer is not moving forward. Is that what this is?
We have to, so we put out the RFQ, we got a response, only one response. So that's the binder that's come, that has come back to us that you and I will get a chance to finally read. And then this MOU, the Community Housing Board, along with the attorney for the Community Housing Board, has been working on this MOU, which is the mechanism that makes it possible for us to move forward with this group. So they can't move forward
And
until
to what point at what point would the CDC of LI be present before the town board? That's the question I want to ask.
That's what I want to do, is I want to have us work on the MOU and get that into a form that we're comfortable with, and then have them come in just to kind of meet and greet, So we've looked at their binder, so we have any specific questions. I've started to get through some of their qualifications, and they are a very solid group. They've done projects like this before. So it would just be more, whatever questions you come up with. And again, for that, if we're going to shoot for maybe August 5th, which is where I tentatively put it on, when Liz said that the MOU was getting close to getting kicked from the Community Housing Board to the town board, I thought maybe that would be the work session where we could invite them. I would, out of courtesy, ask to collect questions that we may have to be able to give them ahead of time so that they would understand what.
So just so I'm clear, so there is only one model here. It's A, meaning there's an A. We're not going to look at any other alternatives. Is that correct?
We need to get through we need to.
I understand that.
Yeah, but when they start to look at it, they will come back to us and say, this is what we're proposing. And that's where I think we'll have an opportunity to say, well, we're not sure about this funding source, but we're investigating these funding sources, or we do have 1.1 million and we could do, that's all for a later discussion. But we have to get to a point where we can even have discussion with them.
And is the board able to see the model that they've been using, that you've shared and you've discussed with CDC? Is there any way that?
When you say you, I haven't.
So I can speak to this.
That's what I'm a little
Okay,
confused.
great. So I think that there's a little bit of a fixation on a preliminary modeling. And so this is naturally going to come into play when we work on the budget with them together, right? So they did preliminary modeling, we did preliminary modeling, got to about the same place. Now, as a result of the contract negotiations that I hope that we can get to once we get to this MOU, that model may change, right?
I completely understand that.
So what I think is I think that if we want to have a fruitful discussion around financial modeling, then we need to get to the actual discussion with them about the budget, so that they can update the cost, with what the feedback we've gotten. So I think that we're not there yet because we haven't given them all the parameters to be able to look at it. So I think that is an important and natural step that is coming, but it is premature at this point. So I just want to put that out there. Does that make sense?
No, but that's okay.
Well, no, then I want to clarify this.
What doesn't make sense, I'm
because I think it's
trying.
really important that we have clarity around the financial.
The clarity is that, I know that it's only a model and those things change, but I would think that there would be something to look at.
But here's
Something,
the thing,
even if it's
changing
even if it's off base, but there has to be some basis of what you're doing, okay? And I know it's gonna change because prices change.
Well,
the
why
buildings
would
and
we
stuff
not
change.
have that conversation with them, with the actual people that are doing the
That's why they're coming.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I was like, I think it's an important thing. So like, let's move this conversation forward so that we can get into it.
Okay.
But us having the conversation circularly here it's not gonna get us it's not gonna get us anywhere. So let's get there because I wanna dig into what they have and how the costs have changed and the modeling has changed, but there is not enough information to answer the question at this point. So let's get them the information so that we can have a real working budget and dig into it.
Thank you.
I'm just, Benjamin, this was also a concern that you had. So are you satisfied with that?
I am, absolutely. I think we should, I'm looking forward to moving this forward. I think we've talked about it enough. I'm pretty comfortable with the resolution, the companion statement. We just need to clean it up a bit. And that'll be one thing out of our way. And I do think the smarter way to deal with CDCLI is to have them come in and we'll work on the MOU and have questions and have an organized discussion about it. And then they can explain exactly how the financing clicks into this model. So yeah, I'm okay.
And again, I do ask that you bring in questions because it is a very large group of people that they are pulled together for this. So specific questions are helpful because it will help them know who needs to attend. So,
Like sustainability people and
right, yeah,
the
we
builder
got
joined
the
us from,
architects, we got the
the site,
engineers,
and
we
the
got
architect has to be there, so.
the
let's make
energy,
sure that we're-
yeah.
Got the right people on the
And when are you doing this? When are we suggesting this happens?
Well, I've got it tentatively on for August 5th. That might be a little optimistic, but I'm always optimistic.
Okay.
But we'll see, we get the binder into both the last two town board members who have not had access to it yet.
I am not going to be available until August 4th.
Okay,
I mean, I'll be here, I'll be in Shelter Island on August 5th, but I won't be able to create a list of questions.
okay. Most likely, it's gonna end up being the following week. It'll end up being 7 + 5, 12. Just because we are working on the MOU, and I'd like to have that more buttoned down so that we can give them a draft so that they feel comfortable. Like, okay, this process is moving along and this is part of us finalizing it.
Okay. But don't wait for me. I mean, you guys can come up with questions on your own and I can do what I can. But okay, got it.
You had something
A
else?
simple suggestion maybe to make things go a little smoother for, let's say it's the August 12th meeting. Maybe ask CDCLI if they could give their most recent model a couple of days in advance so that it could be looked at, so that the questions and answers could go a little bit smoother. I think that would be helpful. And I'll get you my binder in the interim, Gordon.
Else from the public on this before we move on to the next agenda item?
Oh, can I say one thing? I did want to respond to one public comment, just because I'm a tax accountant, there was something that said it would raise taxes. It will not raise taxes. In fact, seeking funding from outside of the town will make sure that funding initiatives do not impact local finances or raise taxes, just important tax clarification.
And Pam, I see you've raised your hand.
Yeah, hi. I just would like to echo what Councilman Diet said about changing the title of this document. It doesn't really come across as something that meaningful when you call it a companion statement, and a legislative intent seems to be more appropriate. It's easier for folks to understand. I think it makes more sense to the public, from my opinion. And I think that that's an important thing to do. And also to echo his comment about seeing how this pro-housing community program grants that are attached to it, because it's a program, right? We know, and which ones of those grants would in fact apply to any type of project on Shelter Island? I mean, for instance, there's like a canals grant. Well, we don't have canals on Shelter Island, so that one's not ever going to be a possibility, but just to get a sense of that. And they have that listed on the Pro Housing Community website. So it's very easy to get a list of those possibilities and in joining this program, where the monies may come from. So that's all. I appreciate it. And yeah, that's a long conversation. Let's let's see what happens in a week or two. Thanks.
Well, Pam, for a minute there, I thought you were going to suggest that we build a canal in Shelter Island as a wetlands project.
I did list the grant opportunities in the companion document.
Yes.
The ones that exist currently, not necessarily the ones that might exist in the future, because we don't know about those yet, but.
Yeah. And also, once we have the MOU on board, the CDLI and company have done this kind of work before in other communities on Long Island, in New York City, New Jersey. So they have experience in knowing which grants to apply for. So rather than bringing our grant writer in, we'll take advantage of their knowledge as well, which won't cost us extra taxpayer dollars.
Exactly.
Okay, if there's no one else, we will move on to 7 Chequet Avenue.
All right.
Just wanted to alert the town board, we've gotten some correspondence from Sertleman Balin. Just want to refresh my memory on this. It came in, did everyone get it? Maybe not you, Benjamin, because you're traveling.
Yeah, I think it got emailed to us.
Yeah, I have it.
And, yeah, and we also printed copies of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's right, Christine had it on as well. All right, so where does everyone stand on this? Do we feel that the 100 square foot exemption was previously used? Was it partially used? Not used at all?
I think that Reed did his due diligence and determined that it hasn't been used yet.
I think it has been used.
Or what, 58 feet of it? Is that what you're talking about, Albert?
I mean, I'm looking at the building permit from December 3rd, 2007. And it states reno of existing dwelling to include roofing, siding, trim, insulate, replace doors and windows, update mechanical systems, replace pool patio, and repair pool. Special conditions, patio to be located 100 feet from the wetlands boundary. Updated survey required prior to issuance of CO. Line of hay bales to be installed at 100-foot line to prevent intrusion into the wetlands area, except for the new stoop. So they demoed the patio, so it was out of the wetlands area, 100-foot area.
Mhm.
And then they call out the new stoop, which is 36 square feet. And then the builder, whatever, left 22 square feet of pool patio that remained in the 100-foot area. And then 2 AC units were installed in the wetlands area. So from the numbers from the architect, 2 numbers that we have, 36 feet for the stoop, 22 feet for the pool patio is left, which is 58 square feet. And then the 2 AC units, I would have to measure those. I don't know, I would think comfortably they're 10 by 4, 40 square feet, whatever, or over your,
He said 18 square feet.
the AC units?
Yeah, he said added 2
Yeah.
AC compressors, adding about 18 square feet. That was his calculation.
I didn't realize, where did he say, when did
It's
it?
In his email to us.
Okay. I mean, Reed, he talked a lot about horse trading, and that's the way it was done back then, but all I can look at is paper that we have on the project. I look at the building permit and those items that were left in the wetlands battery, so.
So that would leave 24 square feet. And my calculation, you have the same calculation, Albert? 24 square feet remains then?
Yeah, okay. I mean, frankly, it seems like, I'm not questioning Reed, but I guess I am, that 2 AC units would be more than 18 square feet. But,
AC units aren't really that big though. They're like 4 by 4 or
By 3,
they're not large.
yeah?
footprint small.
The large one is 4 by 4.
That's his job, to do calculations. Go with what he said. The request is for 99.5 square feet. A covered porch and roof deck. Something about stairs, I think 24 feet gives enough of the steps down that are needed. Before I call, any other comments from the board or?
What?
Ian McDonald, the project architect. 2007, as I am today. You existing concrete patio was removed. We rebuilt it in the same footprint. And it's the 22 square foot that comes from the Heights letter was really existing patio, just rebuilt. As you heard from me, Karen, the setback of 100 feet for the patio dealt with the adjacent dining tab patio, not the pool patio. In addition, this project, air conditioning units, I have to confirm, but I believe there's 30 by 30. So we're really talking about 6 square feet for each one, so 12 square feet. I'll have to get you model numbers to confirm what was actually installed, but it's I think the 18 is right. And last, the 2007 project greatly reduced the coverage of the property. As more than 190 square feet, even including the new components. So I do recall getting a call from Mary Wilson at the time. She had spoken to Supervisor Kill, and they said it did not have to go for wetlands review because it was not an increase in any way or manner. It was a significant decrease. So my argument is that the 100 square foot exemption wasn't used and should be.
But Amber, by your calculation, how many square feet are encroaching into the wetlands in total now?
Well, if we take the 22 square feet for the pool encroachment, whether or not you consider that's existing or new, 36 feet for the new stoop and the vegetative buffer on the north side of the residence, and then 18 square feet for the 2 AC compressors. That's how I got to 76 square feet used.
So that leaves 24 left over?
That would leave 24 feet left over.
Okay.
I'll say one thing. John Evans, I'm a neighbor. I think his resolution was you could use up one time up to 100 square feet. I don't think it's a rolling, you can come back and use 22 feet this year and get another 30 feet the next year. You can use up to 100 square feet. One-time exemption. And I think that's been used. Now, the other thing, the other comment was, I spoke to Mary Wilson. From what I understand, Mary Wilson is not in the best shape, let's put it that way. But that's hearsay. But what he's saying is hearsay. And even if it's true, did she talk to Al Kilb? Who was Al Kilb? I mean, he's the supervisor at the time, but he's not the king of Shelter Island. That's not the way the process should work. That Al Kilb gives his approval and then it's approved. That's illegal. So, that A, shouldn't be considered for hearsay, number one. And two, it just isn't legal. He can't make that determination on his own. Those are my comments.
Thank you. And I smiled when you said he wasn't king, because I always say I'm not the queen.
I just wanted to add one other concern that's Grace Evans, I'm the 5 Cheapwood. In addition to the comments I've already made about the 100 square foot exemption, I just wanted to say I also have 2 trees that are on my property that are in the wetlands that are very tall, mature trees, have been there for, like 100 years, whose roots are about 10 to 15 feet spread out. I have no doubt that when they do construction, that the roots of these trees are going to get damaged. And I'd ask that, a certified arborist come out, look at it, and just put in writing that they don't think that our trees will be damaged at all. And you can see, on that property, and in 2007, a lot of the trees were taken down. It's important to us to have these trees there. It adds to, our privacy. It's, they're historic. And I really think it would be hard to believe that they're not going to be damaged.
Do you think the root system is under the existing building permit that's been issued, or are they under just getting into this 100 square foot exemption question?
They're definitely in, I mean, it looks to be in line with where, this porch is supposed to be, but, I haven't surveyed it myself.
Yeah, no, I just asked
Yeah.
because the building permit is issued by right. The only thing that we are discussing today is the 100 square foot exemption.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely falls within that 100 square feet, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just mention, may not be relevant to this application, but just for the future, protecting the roots of a tree involves not only not building on top of them, but not storing materials on top of them, not riding heavy construction vehicles over them. So I'm sure you've experienced this before and you've imposed this requirement before, but there can be protections for the areas above a root system, quite apart from what the building envelope might be.
Interesting. Okay.
Still, sorry, processing what he said, it opened up a whole.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Stella Lagunas, representing the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corp. And I just want to make clear that when we wrote our last letter, we referenced that 22 square feet. That data was picked off of Ian's site plan, his own site plan, where it referred to the pool patio, not the dining patio. And I'm pretty sure that, I don't have it with me today, but I'm pretty sure that the document that the building department issued for the permit referenced the pool patio as well as keeping it out of the 100-foot regulated area. So I just want to leave that with you.
Yes, they did, Stella, you're right.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Got a hand.
Yes, may I just ask, is there an answer to whether or not demolition is going to be required to build this structure in the wetlands area? I know that there's supposed to be a survey from 2025. There was a question of how much of that one corner where the pool patio would attach or be near this, that there was demolition happening to the pool patio along the new building structure. So we assume that there's another bit of square footage there that would require demolition and therefore a wetlands permit. And it's a little disturbing to hear that, things were built in 2007 when we had wetlands permits available and this applicant didn't apply for one, if in fact they're claiming that the 100 square foot exemption wasn't used. So, but that means that stuff was built now in the wetlands without a wetlands permit. So that's a little concerning because that would indicate that there's a violation of the wetlands code. But the demolition I brought up a couple of weeks ago and I haven't gotten an answer about that.
We
So if
did
you could
receive,
investigate that or tell me that you've gotten plans from the applicant that show exactly where this was, because I know Councilman Dixon asked for plans to be submitted. I don't see those posted anywhere either.
We were told that no, there would be no demolition.
And the thing to keep in mind is the building inspector does monitor the site. So if they do see that demolition is occurring within the wetlands, then they will issue a stop work order.
Mhm.
There is demolition in the wetlands. They're gonna put in piers. There's no way that they could avoid not doing demolition in the wetlands. In the pier installation on the water side, particularly the water side of the house.
I think she was talking specifically about the pool deck,
Mhm.
that they're not gonna demolish the pool deck to do the construction, is what we were told.
Right, the setbacks, if they meet the setbacks, I believe.
No.
No, it
Question,
wasn't the setbacks. I'm sorry.
No.
No,
Whether or
Meg is
not they
correct. Meg is correct that is what I'm asking about, is the western edge of the pool patio that's existing. Part of it is in the new wetlands delineated area. It wasn't there in 2007, but it's there now. And part of that corner needs to be removed in order to do any kind of construction that's being proposed here. And that's why the plans were necessary to be received to confirm that. Being told that there's none doesn't confirm that. And that's what I'm looking for, is confirmation of that, not just hearsay.
I looked at the plans and the building inspector showed me that it wouldn't involve demolition. Need an additional set of plans to demonstrate that, but that was the conversation I had with Reed.
You have the architect. Can Ian comment on that now?
You're willing to?
We have no intention of demolishing the patio at all. And we should be sufficiently away for excavations that it should not affect the patio.
And do you have your hand up from before, or that's a new hand raise?
I just would like to see some proof of all of this. This is so convoluted of an application for so many reasons. And before the town board makes a decision one way or another, it seems that you already say 78 feet have been used. So what are you going to do with 24 square feet? You're not going to build the structure that they're proposing now. If they've used 78 of 100, they've used the exemption. I agree with Mr. Evans that it's up to 100 square feet. It doesn't have to be exactly 100 square feet. This is certainly something that was supposed to be corrected in the town code. It was not done by Mr. Kiley. We're suffering through it today, and I think that the conversation just needs to be voted on, and you need to decide whether or not they've used it or not, and whether to grant this exemption at this point.
Steve will highlight code for you so you can take a look to see and advise us in a legal what, how to interpret the 100 square foot exemption.
I will.
So
So I
that
guess
sounds
my
like we're
struggle-
adjourning this?
What?
So that sounds like we're adjourning this to next week?
Well, if we have time after executive session to discuss this as a legal matter, we can get advice from Steve, and then we can next week decide what we want to do with it.
Okay.
So I guess where I'm struggling is that I don't see how this application should be treated differently than any of the other applications that have gotten the 100 square foot exemption. You know, on all of these wetlands properties, especially the older ones, there's always some construction in that 100-foot boundary, because technically the code allows you to build in the 75 to 100 foot, right? So the older homes were placed on these lots before this code even existed. So to say that because there's pre-existing construction in that setback now, they shouldn't have 100 foot, that's never how we've done it in the past. It's if that 100 foot is documented to have been used, then it's been used. But there's no real documentation on this property. And, you know, this kind of hot mess situation has happened on numerous properties that, you know, we're still allowed to then apply the 100 square foot exemption because, you know, it was pre-existing, whatever that intrusion was. So in the code, it's kind of as of right, we're just supposed to be here documenting the use of it because it hasn't been used in the past. So this is where I'm struggling with it, because the code is written in such a way that, you know, everybody's entitled to that 100 square feet. Once it's documented, it's spent. But we have no documentation of it being used. We have evidence that, you know, it didn't have to use it because they were reducing intrusions. We have, you know, all this other stuff, but there's no documentation about this specifically. So that's where I'm like,
Well,
stuck.
to counter your argument, I would say the wetlands code was in existence when the new stoop went on, so that 36 square feet does look like it was a use when the new code came into place. The same with the AC compressors. The 22 feet is the only other one that I just want to take a closer look at. Because it was a reduction and left 22 feet, so was it leaving 22 feet
Well,
that existed pre-code?
and that's the thing, like that 22 feet is so arbitrary when you look at where the wetlands line could possibly be. In a year, it could shift just a smidge and there would be no intrusion. You know, that's sort of
The other way.
tricky.
I feel like it's,
The 22 square feet is called out on the 2007 site plan. And it's not.
I mean, I don't know, where I struggle with this is using the word documentation for, I mean, the way the building department did it was they'd put a sticky note on the inside of a manila folder, which could fall off over the years, maybe never get documented. There was no actual trusted system to document this. And what we're looking at now is there was building or an intrusion in the wetlands after the last code. So some of this was used, and it's supposed to be a one-time exemption. And the way the town documented it isn't all that reliable. So you can't use that as a very solid defense here. I mean, what we can see is that there was a discussion around this about building in the wetlands. There was some structure put in the wetlands after the last code. So be it 1 foot or 36 feet or 74 feet, but there was some use or structure put in the wetlands. And if this is a one-time exemption, I feel that it's been used. And it's a terrible, terrible piece of part of the legislation, which the new legislation has removed because it's so problematic. So,
right, I mean, one-time exemption is not like explicitly stated in the code. It does say, what part of it, 129.3, Article 2, 129.3H, the wetlands permit exemption for new construction less than or equal to 100 square feet is an exemption for all new accumulated construction totaling 100 square feet or less.
Right.
So I struggle with that piece. That's why I want legal advice on that. I do agree with you that the documentation was sketchy at the time. It was new. So that's why we've implemented this procedure last year, because we didn't want to rely on sketchy documentation going forward. You're, I don't know if you're talking, Ben, you're muted.
no, go ahead.
Okay, but, so though, to me, that's the question.
Is it a
Is
one-time thing?
how to interpret, is it a one-time or not? And that's where I want Steve to weigh in. I mean, we can.
I would also like to hear what Stephen has to say about that.
Amber, if I may. In 2019, I asked this question of Bob Stefano, the town attorney at the time, and Chris Tehan, the senior building inspector. And I have an email confirmation from them that it's not considered a one-time, one use. If you use a little, move a little spot, you give a little back, you can take and reuse it again. I will forward you that email later on. And then when I was on the representing the planning board on the subcommittee re-examining the wetlands code, it was my understanding, and I believe Kylie, I'm speaking for Kylie's too, that we were going to rewrite the code, the excerpt, so that it could be used repeatedly. You could get rid of a section and come back. So there is a history of that in this law.
It's not in the current proposed code, is it?
No, it's not. We're taking it out entirely.
No, it's.
We'll never have to deal with this
the code,
again once we get that.
the draft, the new draft.
Can I make one observation? Ultimately, the board's going to have to make this decision, how it interprets this language. But I will, as silly as this may sound, I think there's a difference between all new accumulated construction on the one hand and all accumulated new construction on the other. The word new precedes the word accumulated. So I think that to me suggests a one-time exemption because it's new construction and you accumulate all of the intrusions and see how many square feet are implicated, rather than saying it's an accumulation of all new construction whenever that construction may have occurred. So I think the order of the words here has some significance. It seems to me.
Okay, so one-time exemption.
But, again, clearly this is going to require the board to be comfortable with the way it is interpreting the code. And we can talk about it further in a consultation.
Okay.
Lori?
Yes, I just want to point out that I could find no record of a wetlands permit in 2007 for the removal and replacement of the existing patio. I also could find no wetlands permit for these new intrusions, regardless of how small they may be. So without a wetlands permit, that to me suggests that a portion of that 100 square feet was used, because otherwise you would have seen a wetlands permit even back in 2007, because the original code was enacted in 2000. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So path forward, I suggest we have a legal with Steve. Put this on one last time next week to just hash out the direction we want to take so that we can have a resolution for August 11th. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, thank you. Okay. What are we doing on time? I have a hard stop at 5.
At what time, Amber?
What?
What time do you have a hard stop?
At 5.
I think the next two are gonna go quick.
Yes, yeah, I'm just tossing it out there. I just, Romain's gonna be on the island and he requested to meet with me, the supervisor. He's been periodically visiting all the supervisors, so I will be available for him.
He's running late, he'll be here.
He's running late?
He's gonna get late. Yeah. he's
Oh, okay.
4:20 now.
Okay, but he said
it was
5 o'clock.
3. Oh, okay.
Yep, so, yep. First one was Shelter Island Holdings LLC, Eric Zweifeld. It was a bulkhead application.
Follow,
What?
follow,
Is that just one?
Coconut shells.
follow.
Oh, yes, yes, it's in.
Coconut rind, yeah.
Yes,
Biodegradable netting.
yes, that's right, I'm sorry, but I think it was on a bulkhead.
Yeah, it's on that form.
It's on that form,
It's a form of bulkheading, it's just a more natural organic form.
yes.
I didn't have any problems with it.
Looking through my notes just to make sure.
I know Albert had a question about if they do deteriorate or wash away in a storm or something, and they're small, I guess, stakes put in to hold them in place.
Yeah, just the hardwood stakes that hold the log
Right,
in some
yeah.
place that if there is decomposition to them, which they do,
Mhm.
tidal action, although the place is not in an
Yeah.
area where it's gonna get a lot of wash, but just that they keep an eye on or remove the stakes.
Mhm. Yeah, because I guess right now they're installing it above the high mean water high water line, which means it's on their property. So it's just a detriment to them, but I guess if we have shorelines that come in, over time, that it could become something that's below the mean high water. And then it would be in the path of public access way.
That could just be part of the resolution.
Yeah, just
Mhm.
maintain, make sure that
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of a continuation of what the neighbors did on their property, which seems to be working very well. Like looking at the photos,
Mhm.
it's well vegetated, it seems to be holding
Mhm.
back the shore from erosion, unlike the property he's looking to do it, where they had significant undermining of their vegetation.
Mhm.
So I'm in favor of it, I don't see a problem.
Yeah, I did go back. It was above the entire one is above the mean high water. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that one conclusion then for the resolution.
yes,
Make
anyway.
sure that they pull out any
Yeah.
steps that get left behind, it's a great.
Everyone else is good?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Adopt.
It's
This,
a low-profile bulkhead, and it's set back from the wetlands area.
Mhm.
Just a replacement. The WMAC gave it unanimous approval.
I didn't have any concerns about this one either, I thought
Yeah.
it was fine. The cute little short one.
yeah, I don't have anything, so it can be a standard resolution. Right? Yeah, okay, those did move
Let's
along
do it
quickly.
My optimism paid off, I'm like, those will go fast.
Okay. I'm
Local law
gonna
to-
time out. I'm gonna time out here eventually, but let's just keep going.
Okay, all right. Local law to abolish the office of town attorney. We had public hearing on that and let's see. Yeah, we had a few people come in and talk about it. Just looking.
I have some concerns about it. I think that, I think it's important to have a full-time town attorney. I think that we need someone to fill that role and kind of be the cog that all the spokes feed into. And I think that if we take this move and dissolve that position and remove the civil service aspect to it, then it's going to be harder to find good candidates to fill that position. I think it's going to, having that 2-year term is really all it is. It's a 2-year term and the town, it's, every 2 years, the town board would have to reappoint. So it's not a very long term, but it provides enough stability to the position to make it something that people are willing to consider applying for. I think that by eliminating the position from, the town, it kind of leaves the office of the town attorney or whoever counsel is, it leaves their position open to the whims of the board, which would create kind of an unstable atmosphere. I think that I don't want a town attorney to feel pressured to give advice that I'm gonna like, because they're concerned that if the board gets enough advice that they don't like, they're just gonna fire them on a whim, even though it might be sound advice. It's just not advice that the board wants to hear, because maybe it's contrary to what the board feels like doing. And so I'm concerned that if there isn't some small degree of job security for the position, we're going to end up with an unproductive work environment. And I think it significantly limits our applicant pool as to who's going to be willing to take on this kind of role. You know, and I do think it's important to have a full-time town attorney. And it's going to be hard to find a full-time town attorney if there's very little security in the position. You know, the town attorney does so much for the town in general, not just the town board, but all the different departments. Go to the attorney, they have questions, and when the town attorney is not easily accessible, like the way we've been running for the first 6 months, you know, Steve has been wonderful, but it also hasn't been possible for the different department heads to just reach out to him with small questions, because it's expensive, it's not necessarily timely, the responses, because, you know, he has divided attentions. We're not the only client. So I think it's important for the town to have a town attorney who's fully dedicated to the town and what the town needs. I mean, I have an entire page and a half of reasons as to why I think that. But then I did also do, you know, a financial breakdown of what we've spent to date. And how, you know, having a full-time town attorney in-house is absolutely the less expensive and more productive option for us. You know, we've spent right now $120,000 approximately for 307 hours of service. Whereas typically if we had a full-time attorney, we would have spent $98,000 and we would have gotten 1,040 hours of service. So for, you know, more expense, we've gotten a third of the hours. So, you know, I am not really in favor of doing something that's going to make it harder to fill our town attorney position with a full-time person. So that's just those are my concerns.
Well, I have questions about a lot of things that you just said, including your calculations and what's included in them, what's not included in them.
I'll share them with you, that's okay.
Yeah, no, you can send them. Given the challenges that this town is facing now and going forward, having one person with whatever background or experience will have its own limitations. And what we've all been discussing for the last God knows how many months is how to best create a legal support system for this town that will better address the challenges that we face. And we have chosen to try, I mean, you use Stephen as an example. Stephen is amazing, and we all would love for him to be our town attorney. I suggest that the 5 of us would vote unanimously to have Stephen stay on, but that's not possible, and we all know why. But and a lot of it has to do with some of the things you mentioned, Meg, which was having more and more consistent and more broad access. And we're trying to fix that by possibly bringing in a law firm to fill that role and having many lawyers in the law firm available to us to address these problems. Will it be more expensive? I don't know, maybe. This is a bad year to use as an example because we've had so many litigious situations between the planning board, the zoning board, every board, including the town board. There's been so much more activity this year. So to say that we're at whatever level we're at, and that's more than last year, is it's not an apples to apples comparison. But the overall picture, the more important question to answer is, what will best serve this town going forward? And given the complex situations that we are going to face with the changes that are happening in Shelter Island. And I think having one person with one set of experience with, I don't think that's the answer. I just don't.
So that's not what I'm proposing. I do think that we need one person at town hall 5 days a week to act as the hub for all of our legal issues. And I think that person can answer all of the little questions that come in day to day. I think that person can handle some of our basic contract negotiations, like, for example, the Presbyterian Church with the senior nutrition program. That person is the person who would manage and filter everything. So if we had some kind of legal issue that needed to go to a different council, it would be that person's job to bump it to that council, but then also monitor it, follow up, make sure it's happening timely. We don't have anybody filling that position right now. And it's a problem. But having Benjamin, may I finish?
Go ahead.
Having a firm represent us for a limited number of hours a week is still not going to fill that position. That's my concern. I think we need someone in-house. That's just my opinion. So, yeah.
Okay. And I disagree with your opinion respectfully. And I think we should try the new approach. If it doesn't work, we can pivot again. I'm not saying that the path that we have chosen as a board to take going forward, which, we haven't really presented that to the public, but I think that's a good path to take. And if it works, great. But it's different than what we've done in the past. And and just to be honest with you, the last time we tried this didn't work out so well. So let's try something different.
Can I just introduce a comment?
Yes.
So I think you're discussing two separate issues at the same time. And that is whether you ought to have a full-time in-house attorney on the one hand, and whether that attorney should be an officer of the town on the other hand. If you want a full-time in-house attorney, you can do that pursuant to an employment contract without making that person an officer. Designating them as the town attorney makes them an officer, and it takes away your discretion. Now, you can offer particular candidates who you think are worthy of it a contract, an employment contract with a 2-year term. So it's entirely, of course, up to the board, but I just thought I'd make that distinction between the status as an officer on the one hand and the value of a full-time in-house attorney on the other.
Yeah, and we've
Thank
all
you, Steve. I appreciate that.
We're offering, having the town attorney be an officer, was an unnecessary disaster, which led to the problem we had last year. And the current situation and the way we've chosen to solve it is to try it for 6 months. New arrangement, new setup, different situation. It's good to the end of the year. And we'll see how it works. And if it doesn't work, we'll shift, we'll pivot, we'll sit down with them, we'll talk about how it didn't work for us, how it didn't work for them. And if we can come to some amended arrangement, great. And if we can't, we'll try a different path. But we're not locking ourselves into anything with the new situation other than the next 6 months. And certainly not a 2-year deal that we can't get out of if we're unhappy. And I don't think you get a different performance from an attorney just because they have civil service protection or not.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But look, Meg, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, let's try it. And
Well,
if
we've
I'm
kind
right,
of
we
been
can
trying
fix
that
it.
model for the last 6 months.
No, we haven't. We've had Stephen as an interim while we're trying to figure out the new correct path. Stephen Leventhal has been amazing. And
I don't argue with that.
I think that this town board should give him a proclamation for the work he's done for us for the last 6 months, for crying out loud. Um, but it doesn't, it's not the permanent way forward for this town. It's not a good way forward for this town. And it's gonna be terrible when we implement the things that we've been talking about, because we won't have Stephen anymore. And that's not a great thing. That's a sad thing. But you're right. It's cost a lot of money to have an interim town attorney. It cost a lot of money to get rid of the last town attorney we had that had a 2-year contract. And we're trying to fix those things and have a smarter, more nimble, more flexible arrangement that will serve the town's needs as we go forward and as those needs change. So that's what we're shooting for here. Can't tell you we're going to hit the target, but we're going to try.
Just to clarify, the last town attorney submitted a resignation and we had an agreement for the separation.
That's true.
And there was a non-disparagement agreement in there. So be careful. I was gonna say, I'm fine with this to be written as a for a resolution in the affirmative.
What, sorry?
Write the resolution in an affirmative manner.
To
so that when,
accept it.
so when we vote on it, it would be accepted. And if Meg feels strongly, she can vote no.
You're in favor of designating town attorney?
I'm in favor of abolishing the office because the path that we are heading down, we should have this in place.
Yeah, we can't do what we want to do unless this is passed.
Yeah, I just think that it allows more flexibility to eliminate the town attorney position as an officer of the town.
Can I just make one other quick comment? And that is that I'm very grateful for the kind words that have been said about me at this meeting. But I want to tell you that I'm not abandoning my friends on Shelter Island. I will still be here. You know my number. So please let me know if I can ever offer you assistance.
Thank you.
Even if it's just to pick my my brain for what that's worth.
Well, I still think we should give you a proclamation.
As supervisor, that is greatly appreciated. And I do have your phone number in my phone. Okay. Do you want to keep this so you can distribute it to the rest of us? Just me? That was
Sure.
your numbers calculation.
It's my math. Yes. And that number did not include litigation or labor.
Just quick and dirty, I have a different number. So I would be curious to see it. I don't have it as high as your number.
Well, when we get into the budget, it's a good time to talk about all those other legal fees.
Yeah, but as Benjamin said, we had a lot going on this year, and so you can't always control what comes at us.
Very true.
You can only prepare.
And going forward, you're going to be able to pass through a significant amount of what otherwise would be your legal cost to the applicant.
Exactly. That was part of our preparation that we've done this year so far. We need to prepare for the future because the world is changing, has changed, or whatever. And I don't need to talk about this anymore.
Okay, posting documents on website. Gordon, you had started this because you asked for a specific document to be posted.
I don't know what the procedures are. I
Yeah,
don't see
and-
anything.
Okay, well, that's, Christina had given you a write-up, and I think Jim, Reed, who's also been part of the media committee that came up with the policies for posting. So if you want to come up with a different policy,
Well, this really started over the grants committee, okay, and I still don't see the apprehension even on the grants committee, because when we talk about it being open and still on the agenda, the item that was looking to get posted was still open, because it still hasn't been resolved.
grants that
Grants.
are open. Okay, so as far as grants that are open, we've got the Fresh Pond Pilot grant. So you wanted to have the, let me just find it on here, the EPA grant. And so the question is specifically what exact document do you want posted? Because we have the application, we have the award. We don't have a contract in place yet because we have yet to work on that. So your request begs the question, exactly which document do you want? But then also, what do we do with the Suffolk County Water Protection and Restoration, the Fresh Pond application that we have in? We have the New York State WQI, we've got New York State Household Hazardous. And I'm just naming these because there's so many documents. So if you're deviating from policy when you just want to post one of the, one grant, why are we posting that one instead of all the others, and which specific document? So it's like, if you want to sit down and come up with a policy so that it's easy for.
Let's just talk about this particular one piece, okay, which really is that 1.25. And it's been there, so, and it's changed, okay? And
What's changed?
well, the 1.25, meaning we have to go back. We sent a letter in saying, okay, that we sent a letter into the EPA saying at this particular moment, we sent a letter on, or it was actually a phone call, and that said, then they sent a letter back to say, well, it's still open, meaning all we have to do is put a plan together.
Right, that's part of, when you're awarded a grant,
Right.
then you start, like all of our grants, then we work with the
Well,
agency.
I think what I'm
to
trying
come
to
up with a
avoid is that
contract.
really the grant, I did not know, okay, the grant details, okay, until like yes, the grant is for 1.25, but it was a matching grant. I was not aware of that, okay? And I was not aware of the Suffolk County. And I'm just saying to you, it's just, I'm looking to be just transparent in terms of what we have. Okay, it's still there. It didn't
Can I
go
jump in
away.
here?
Right now, what we're doing is we're working to use part of that money.
Yeah, we have to, so always when we get a grant, and I'll let you talk in a minute, Benjamin, whenever we get a grant, we get an award, but then we have a contract that has to get executed with the
Right.
agency that's giving us so that's the next step in that grant, but we have to come up with exactly what we want to put into that contract.
I understand that. So all I'm saying is it's not a dead issue. It's still alive.
Yeah.
The
Right.
1.2.
Right.
So is there any reason why it shouldn't be out there? And if you were talking about specific documents, I certainly can give you the specific documents.
Okay, but since it's an open thing that's out there, but it's not like we aren't reviewing that document. We're not reviewing a contract agreement yet because we haven't we haven't gone to the table with EPA to say, okay, what is it's to be executed.
Let's put it a different way. It was closed to the public, okay? Not for long, it was, the committee had been open to the public and then it was closed, correct?
Right, because everything has to get approved by the town boards when we do an application.
Well, still, everything is still always is approved by the town board. Nothing's changed.
Right,
Okay, but the point being is that to know the details, like, for example, that Suffolk County grant, that was a matching grant. That $250,000 was matching, had to be a matching grant to the 1.25.
right, that's what we wanted to utilize it for.
Right, okay, but then when we told the county that we weren't using the 2.5, okay,
The 250,000.
250,000. Those grants are still open. They would open, we missed the window here in the spring.
For the 250,000?
Yes.
No, we had to decline that
I
because.
know you declined it
Because it was specifically for
for that particular thing.
municipal project. And
Got
so
it.
we were no longer going down the path of that project. So,
Right, but and again, this came from, okay, what I'm saying is that 250, we had to decline it because we didn't move forward.
correct.
And that was, I don't know how long ago, okay? But the point is that as we're moving forward, what happened is there are certain monies, it's funny, we're talking all about grants, whether it's affordable housing, whatever, but that 250, if we had had a plan in place, we could have proceeded to, go to the county to get that 250,000.
But we had a plan in place.
Yeah, but we have, from when we passed a resolution in April of 2024. Okay, that said, we're not using the grant, okay?
Because it was for a very specific project. There was no opportunity for us to take it from that project and turn it into an IA project.
Right, but we only notified them in April of this year that we weren't using that. Okay, and what they did is they sent a letter back that said, hey, all you have to do is if you have a change, you said, thank you very much for updating us. And they sent a note back that said, hey, if you change it, you have to put your plan together and send it to us first before you do anything.
Are you talking about the EPA grant now?
Yes,
Okay, so we have two different grant conversations going on, and that makes
Okay.
no sense
Wait,
whatsoever.
hold on. I think
Yeah,
one
Benjamin,
is Suffolk County and one is EPA.
wait.
right. So Benjamin,
So-
you've been holding off for a second.
Yeah,
Go.
okay. I don't think we're focusing on the right issue here. And Chief Reed's comment was the winning argument for me, which was this is a question of policy and procedures because we need to have policy and procedures in place that can be followed so the public knows what to expect and what to see, and we need to follow them. But also, those policies and procedures should not be used to keep information from the public. And maybe the easy way to fix this is part of the policies and procedures is if the town board, the majority of the town board votes to release a bit of information, then it should be released. If the town board thinks that it should be out there, we should put it out there.
Yeah, that's fine. I just, I think Gordon's initial ask was, oh, that should be posted. And it's like, that doesn't.
No, I asked it to be posted.
Yeah, and
Asked it to be
board, we
posted.
should all vote as a board.
And I was told
What's
it
the
couldn't be
post?
posted because it didn't meet procedures,
Policy.
policy, okay?
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, if we're changing policy, then I agree with Benjamin, then the town, like, a majority of the town board has to say, okay, like, because otherwise it creates confusion for staff to say, like, oh, I want this out there, you want that out there. And so the staff are trying to figure out, like, okay, should I be checking in with somebody on every single document? Like committee chairs, oh, I want that posted. I mean, this policy is broader than just this one question. It's a policy that the staff, various clerks to various committees follow. And at some point in the future, we're going to have Laserfiche in place, which will then allow us to open a whole lot more documents to be public facing. But right now, we don't have that in place. And what'll happen with Laserfiche is documents will get loaded up into the system on their platform, and then they will automatically be out there. So then things will, as they come in, will get uploaded. Right now, it's not, our documents get saved in SharePoint in, various records, but then it's an extra step to load it up and put it into discussion documents on an existing page and getting it on the right page. So that was my thing, is just you're changing policy, so let's revisit the policy. And so
Well, I think we
Benjamin
should-
has made a suggestion that then just the town board, like, okay, we're going to, 3 people have signed off on it.
But is there a physical written policy?
Here's the open meetings law.
I know the open meetings law, right?
But that's the policy that they go by when it comes to
And that's what,
Well, that committee was never abiding by open meetings law.
No, it was. I mean, we have a media committee that isn't public facing because it's all internal staff people.
you're allowed to have
IT.
internal staff working. It's like
Yeah.
there's no, you know.
I don't,
You know, the open meetings law says what you must post. It doesn't say what you may post or who has the authority to decide what you may post. So it's not a bad idea to have a policy about how the town's website is used. Of course, the baseline is compliance with the open meetings law.
Right.
And we will be complying because these decisions will be made in a public meeting like this one. And if 3, 4, or 5 board members say, hey, that document should be on the website, then done.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think that the policy, you're right, it isn't formally written up. Christina did take all of the understanding that's been discussed over the years, especially when the new website was created. And we had to work around space constraints. You can only put things of a certain size on. So she's given us an email that has the broad policy, so we can work that into a policy that we should all review and then make a decision on, what
I guess the question becomes, I think Ben is striking on something. If the board decides to post something, does it get posted or doesn't it?
Well, that's the new policy I'm suggesting. I don't keep the other
I
ones.
mean, currently, our policy right now, if you go to the town website, there is a section called upcoming hearings, pending laws, and discussion documents. So everything gets posted up there, and Christina and Amber and myself, I periodically will go through and say, oh, this is still on here, but we haven't talked about, this, something in weeks, this, we've resolved that can come off. Just because the page would get too big, starts to, becomes a little bit.
It's not
cumbersome.
meant as a repository for documents. It's not, like
Right.
Laserfiche will do that, which is why we went down that path. That'll be an archive for all the documents that's searchable by the public. So even then, we still won't have to have all these documents posted on the website because they can just go in and search and find them. So that's the ultimate goal.
Is the 1.25, is that an archive?
Until we get there.
Ask
would be
the
a
clerk
dark-
for it and the
yeah,
town
that
clerk
would
will
be
give
The
it to you.
Laserfiche is up and running, which will be great, and we'll see how that works. But until then, I think if members of this board see something that is missing, then they should be able to propose that it gets posted. And if a majority or a unanimous board decides that it should be posted, it should get posted. That's the fix from now until we see how Laserfiche works. But
And what I would propose is, I'm looking at the capital planning website right now, and so under discussion documents, we have all of the capital project requests for 2026, with some of the 2025 ones in there as well, because they are rollover requests from last year. So since we are not actively reviewing and talking about the 1.25 million in a specific session to actually go through that document, maybe we need to, and we have to check with Christina and those who took the training on the website, maybe we have discussion documents and then a section for other documents. I know that there are some, like Water Advisory Committee does have a repository for some other documents that the committee thinks is important. So it's messy and it needs to be updated sometimes, because I think it's gotten stale on some of the information that's there, but I'm not a WAC liaison, so
Right.
you all should be looking at it periodically. So I don't have a problem with that. I'd like to have something that the staff can follow and that it's consistent from page to page within the organization.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because the staff have so much on their plates that we need to make it so that they're not second guessing themselves. So,
I'm not suggesting we change anything other than adding a policy that says if the board wants to post something, it gets posted.
mhm.
And then we'll figure out the Laserfiche when it happens. And I just don't want the policies and procedures that we had be used as a way to filter information from the public. I don't like that. So, and if
think
we
that's
find
other-
something, it's like, oh, this should be posted, then we should just all agree to post it or not post it.
So
At
I
least
will,
that decision will be public.
and I will ask Christina to just memorialize this in more of a policy document instead of an email. Everyone can look at it. She can take a look at the makeup of the web pages to see if we can actually, put in something that's like other documents. And then if we do get to a point where we're actually discussing whatever document it is of, whether it's the grant application or the award letter or the community projects,
The block grant,
yeah,
things like that.
yeah, that kind of stuff, then it can get moved into discussion documents so that it's easier for the public to find.
As I said a moment ago, I think it's a good idea to have a policy about the use of the town's website, but to address, Ben, your specific concern, even in the absence of a policy, the town board is the governing body of the town. If the town board decides that something gets posted on the town's website, it gets posted whether there's a policy that says so or not, because you've just established the policy with respect to that particular document that you want posted. So, you are the ultimate governing body of the town of Shelter Island and of all its facilities.
Amber, I saw you had your hand up, but then took it down.
No, I'm going to wait. I just wanted everyone to take into consideration the amount of work on the clerk's end, not just mine, but the committees as well. But I'll have more input when I'm in person.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Um,
All right. So Gordon, just let us know specifically which document it was that you wanted to have posted, and work with Christina on the policy to formalize it better for everyone. And then also just how the layout of the website works in order to make it so that it's, yeah, findable and appropriate.
Probably
That's a
easier.
little time pressure. I was wondering if we could maybe skip town board reports. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I just want to, I don't know if it's actually, let me look if it's on the webpage. We have gotten notification that our Justice Court clerk is resigning, and so we are posting on the website. We go through the civil service process because it is a civil service test eligible position, but we are getting to the end of the response period for a Justice Court clerk who would be a Shelter Island resident. We haven't gotten any responses as of earlier today. I don't think anything had come in, so we are going to be advertising. So this is my opportunity to put it out on Channel 22 and YouTube that we are looking for a replacement Justice Court clerk. So
And if that clerk is dedicated solely to the court and doesn't provide services other than that to the town, then that person, the hiring of that person is subject to the consent of the town judge.
yes,
Based upon a recent change in the law, relatively recent.
okay, and we've historically, 2 years ago, both justices were involved in the interview process and very much involved, but thank you. Didn't realize something had changed. Yeah, that was the only thing that I really wanted for board member reports. So yeah, if we could go into executive session to discuss the employment history of employees, and we have one contract negotiation on here, but I don't know if we're ready for that yet. So
I make a motion to go into executive, or second your motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.